Alright, let's dive into something that's been blowing up the news cycle lately, the escalating tensions between the US and Iran. But here's the twist, it's not just about the usual geopolitical posturing. This time, there's a deeper layer to unpack, and it's got me thinking about the long-term implications for the region and beyond. So, let's break this down. First off, the big headline: General Dan Caine, Trump's military chief, is reportedly looking for an off-ramp from the Iran war. Now, this is fascinating because, on the surface, it seems like a pragmatic move. Wars are expensive, both in terms of resources and political capital. But what's really interesting here is the timing. Why now? After 5 months of conflict, with Trump repeatedly claiming a peace deal is within reach, this feels like a shift in strategy. Personally, I think this could be a sign of internal pressure within the administration. Wars are messy, and even if you're the most hawkish leader, the reality of prolonged conflict can force a re-evaluation. What many people don't realize is that off-ramps in geopolitics are rarely about admitting defeat, they are about saving face while minimizing damage. This raises a deeper question: is the US genuinely seeking peace, or is this a tactical retreat to regroup? Now, let's talk about the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's recent missile attack on a UAE oil tanker has everyone on edge. The UAE called it acts of piracy, and honestly, that's a loaded term. It's not just about one ship, it's about control over one of the world's most critical choke points. If you take a step back and think about it, this isn't just Iran flexing its muscles, it's a strategic move to assert dominance in negotiations. Iran's Supreme National Security Council laid out 6 conditions for reopening the strait, including lifting sanctions and ending the US military presence in the region. What this really suggests is that Iran isn't just reacting, it's playing the long game. They are using the strait as leverage to force the US into concessions. In my opinion, this is a high-stakes gamble, but it's one that could pay off if the US feels the economic pressure from disrupted oil supplies. Speaking of economic fallout, let's not forget the humanitarian crisis in Yemen. The war has driven up food and fuel prices, leaving millions vulnerable to hunger. This isn't just a side effect, it's a direct consequence of the conflict. What makes this really interesting is how it ties into broader global issues. When a regional conflict disrupts global supply chains, it's not just local populations that suffer. We're talking about ripple effects that could impact food security worldwide. From my perspective, this is where the real tragedy lies. Wars are often fought over resources, but when those resources become weapons themselves, it's the civilians who pay the price. Now, let's shift gears to the new defense pact between Turkey, Pakistan, and Saudi Arabia. On the surface, it's a mutual defense agreement, but what's the subtext? Turkey's foreign minister insists it's not aimed at Iran, but come on, the timing is too coincidental. This feels like a Sunni Muslim bloc consolidating power in response to Iran's growing influence. One thing that immediately stands out is how this mirrors NATO's Article 5. It's not just about defense, it's about sending a message. If you're Iran, you've got to be looking at this as a direct challenge. What this really suggests is that the region is fragmenting into competing alliances, and that's a recipe for prolonged instability. Finally, let's talk about the Pentagon's memo urging the defense industry to ramp up weapons production. This is a detail I find fascinating because it reveals just how depleted US stockpiles are after 5 months of war. Wars are resource-intensive, and when you're running low on weapons, it's a sign that things aren't going as planned. Personally, I think this is a wake-up call for the US. You can't sustain a prolonged conflict without the industrial capacity to back it up. This raises a deeper question: is the US prepared for a long-term war, or is this a sign that they are overextended? So, where does this leave us? The US is looking for an exit, Iran is holding firm, and the region is on the brink of a broader alliance shift. In my opinion, the next few weeks will be critical. Will the US and Iran find a way to de-escalate, or will this spiral into something even more dangerous? What many people don't realize is that wars rarely end cleanly, they often fizzle out through exhaustion or negotiation. If you take a step back and think about it, this could be the beginning of the end for this conflict, or it could be the calm before the storm. Either way, it's a story worth watching closely. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below.